yesterday, you delivered your plan. Some people, in reaction to that, you're targeting 1.1 billion euros by 2019. It's a tall order, isn't it, given the backdrop in Italy? And some people are saying, really, you delivered nothing more than a notice of interest.
Good morning to you. I think the business plan, projections, and everything we presented yesterday was actually the first step towards moving on, put the bank back into a stability trajectory, and then look for and seek real interest from outside investors. This is actually something we could have done and could have started only on the basis of the new business plan. So interest is already there. We now need to move to stage 2 and see where we are heading to.
Let's explore that interest a little bit more, if we could. I mean, are investors actively approaching you? Are you having to pick up the phone and call them to get them interested in the world's oldest bank?
Investors so far have been very proactive in approaching either the bank or investment banks working for us. As I said earlier, at that stage, we couldn't engage in formal talks for obvious reasons. So now this is what we're going to do.
Let's dig a little bit deeper. Lots of press reports that you're speaking with the Qataris, you're speaking with Abu Dhabi, with the Kuwaitis or the Chinese. Give us a complexion of, are you approaching sovereign wealth funds? If so, are they in the Gulf, or are you more focused on Asia or America?
I think at this stage, we want to entertain talks with a multitude of different investors. And then we will define which is the best route we want to pursue and see what is the most appropriate potential partner.
And do you have a number in your head for the amount of the capital raising that you want to come from these cornerstone investors? Or are you open to all things?
I think we are open to all things. I mean, this is going to be a mixture of interest from core investors, interest from institutional investors. We need to find out what is eventually the conversion rate of bond conversion we're going to launch in the next few weeks. So difficult to gauge as we speak what is going to be.
What would you hope for? I mean, you've got 5 billion that you want to raise. The amount of the debt that you swap equals the amount that you've left that you've got to raise. What's your best ambition on this? Because the 3 legs of this stool are tied together, aren't they?
They are. My ambition as the CEO of the bank is to look for long-term stability. I mean, we need to make sure that the bank eventually...
But how much of that 5 billion market would you like to see convert from debt?
Well, difficult to make predictions, to be very honest. I think there is going to be we actually received huge interest from bondholders to entertain talks vis-a-vis of the potential conversion. So at this stage, difficult to, come up with a firm number. But this is, at the end of the day, we want to make sure the bank raises the 5 billion. The 5 billion are actually the base upon which we projected the plan, and this is what we want.
So difficult to say. So difficult to say what comes from debt and what from equity. On the subject of these anchor investors, some investors have expressed nervousness that the whole plan really hinges on being able to find them, being able to get enough money from those anchor investors. Would you say that the success or failure of the plan really relies on a big anchor investor from somewhere?
Not necessarily. I mean, the success of the plan relies on the fact that the overall transaction structure is such that we need to raise 5 billion, okay? And this is what we're aiming for.
The other discussion that Anna and I have had, and obviously your bank is front and center on the news flow here at Bloomberg, is that the people that are potentially coming on board, either as new cornerstone investors or your current investors, are they having conversations with you saying, look, I'm in. I'm with you, but I want you to do deals. I want you to do a merger. I want you to be active in the market. If I commit to you, I want you to do deals. Is that part of the conversation?
Not as far as I'm concerned. They not entertain discussion along these lines with myself. Step 1, we need to find out whether there are investors willing to be a permanent shareholder of the bank going forward in the new setup.
But a solo future for Monte dei Paschi is the only plan. There is no plan B at the moment.
There is no plan B at the moment. This is what we're focusing as we speak.
There have been some sceptical voices around the targets that you have as well, suggesting that given the backdrop in the Italian economy, that this is a lot to achieve. How would you convince those naysayers?
Our macro assumptions upon the plan are very conservative. Our interest rate assumption behind the plan are very conservative. Projection we are making on the top line are something which, in our opinion, is pretty feasible. Clearly, this is going to be an execution plan. So the top management of the bank, half of them new, will have to focus on execution.
Can I ask you just on that? And this is a delicate one because, Marco, you were there. You were CFO at a time when it was really a tough time in this bank. And I'm going back to 2010. And many people, some detractors would say, here is the former CFO coming back 6 years later to accede to power to run the bank. What would you say to the people who are detractor or who question that move?
I was the CFO. I was actually the one who raised concern on a formal basis on a number of things the bank was doing at the moment. I was one of the one opposing to a number of transactions that the senior management of the bank decided to do at that juncture, and then I quit. So I think this is pretty much self-explanatory in terms of my behavior at that time.